Hello! If you haven't been on a larger set or maybe watched some behind the scenes or even went to film school, there's a one little tip that'll save you a headache later in post, and that's called room tone. Now, room tone relates to when you're filming a scene. The ambient sound of the room that you're in is really important to have as a track to layer in during your editing. Now, oftentimes when people record things and they try and cut up dialogue, like I'm speaking right now, you try and chop it up and you don't have any of the background soundtrack to kind of layer in and soften the edit points. So right now, the room that we're in, we just finished teaching a class, and there's a projector that's whirring fan in the background. And so we need to capture some just natural tone of the room that we can fill in during editing. So what we would do is we would just wait for about a minute of an absolutely silent room so that we have a clean track of what this room sounds like, and we can use that in editing. So let's enjoy a minute of room tone. One of the most important things with room tone is you want to be absolutely quiet. You want to make sure that none of your crew or anybody else are making any sounds that could interrupt the natural room tone that you're trying to capture. So back to our room tone. Okay, so now that we have a clean track, it's also important to note that we've recorded that in the location and the position that we were recording our dialogue with before. I wouldn't want to just get a recording of the projector on its own. I want to make sure it's in the same location that I was recording before. So that's how you capture room tone, and I'll show you a little bit of an edit of how we've layered this in now to make it sound more natural.
All right, we're in the edit now. So what we are going to do, I will play you this little clip here and you'll see kind of what we're working with.
Hey, my name is Miles. I am holding a MixPre 3. That is a fantastic little recorder.
So we've recorded a little bit of a conversation here, and what I'm going to do is break this up, say, between these conversation bites there. So what do I say next?
That you can use for capturing sound. The MixPre 3 only has 3 XLR inputs, 2 on the front.
So let's say that I want to take out that section and just go straight into talking about what the MixPre 3 was instead of introducing it. I'm going to delete these clips here, and I'm going to go back to my timeline where I have all of this room tone. So this is all of the room tone that we recorded before the big long pause. And I'm just going to take a section here. Now I have a couple tracks you can see. I've muted this one here. This one was the camera onboard track, so this is muted. The green one was from the boom that we use, so that's our best track. That's what we'll be taking from. And I just pressed C for the razor blade, and I'm just going to take a section of this here. In fact, I might just take this long section. Command C to copy that. Backing out, zooming in. I'm actually going to drop it over here on the end just so that I have a little bit of buffer room. And then I'm going to bring it down so it's covering our 2 tracks here. And then I'm going to take all this and move it along closer so that it's not as big of a gap between the 2. So let's shrink our room tone here to something that's appropriate, and let's see what we have.
Pre 3. The MixPre 3 only has 3
So that didn't sound very good. The reason why is because we had our room tone track muted. So let's unmute that and see what that sounds like.
3. The MixPre 3.
Now we can hear that there's a little bit of room tone, right, coming in there. You can see it on the levels. It's pretty low, but that's okay. So what I want to do is actually just add a fade transition. So I can do this by holding Shift and D, and it will add a default transition. In this case, it's just a fade for audio, so we're going to add one of those for each side here, and that's just going to soften the audio track when it comes in. And I would actually add one of these as well, so Shift D, and then I'm going to shrink it here a little bit, and do the same thing so that our dialogue isn't such a harsh entry and exit.
Pre-3. The mix pre-3.
And so it's starting to sound a little bit better because you can hear that there's not such a harsh jump between the dialogue. So I can finesse this a little bit more here so that's a little bit tighter. And let's just take our title from here and slide it on over. And maybe we'll change this text to be something like, so I'm gonna get rid of my mask that I used to hide it. And let's say, tell me more. So what I'm doing is I just typed in there, I used the V key. This is the bane of our existence, is marooned V, is because V is the shortcut to use your mouse. And every time you click V, it will go back to the mouse. But if you're still in the text box, it will add a V there. And I can't tell you how many times I've done that. And also on projects, I've exported thinking I'm going to deliver to the client, and there's a V in there. So let's just bring this back. Another little tip here while you're editing is if you hold Command or I think Control on PC, it'll give you these guides. And so you can very easily straighten where your track is. So we've just made a little text here to cover what I was talking about, and I'll just shrink that to right about where my fade transitions are. So let's see what we have.
A mix pre-3. The mix pre-3 only has...
Now you see how that sounds better because it sounds like we're still in the environment that I was in before. I'm gonna mute this track and that'll take away our room tone and see how it sounds.
Mix pre-3. The mix pre-3.
So it's like audio, audio, talking, talking, and then hard dip, no audio, and then hard return, audio, audio, audio. Whereas when we have this, our room tone.
Mix pre-3. The mix pre-3 only pre-3. The mix pre-3 only
much smoother. So that is how you use room tone in a project.
I am holding a mix pre-3. That is a fantastic little recorder. The mix pre-3 only has 3 XLR inputs, 2 on the front and 1 on the right side. These are great because you can use a battery power to take them into the field, and they have a very nice audio quality, a very low signal to noise ratio for capturing sound. I am holding a mix pre-3. That is a fantastic little recorder. The mix pre-3 only has 3 XLR inputs, 2 on the front and 1 on the right side. These are great because you can use a battery power to take them into the field, and they have a very nice audio quality, a very low signal to noise ratio for capturing sound.
If you have any questions or you want me to follow up with that, let me know. I hope you learned something, and I hope you have a nice day. Bye.